Okay, so I've been getting so many questions and comments about the process of how I make my jewelry, so I'm finally going to show you step by step on how to make garnet tri-stone electroformed rings. Here's a quick preview of the basic materials you need to get the process started. Tim Holtz alcohol ink foil tape sheets, a bunch of wooden clothespins. Today we're using 4mm garnet raw gemstones, copper wire, high quality conductive paint in copper, Gorilla Glue gel, Insta-Set, which helps dry the glue within about 3 seconds. This is my absolute fave product. I don't make anything without it. Cutting pliers, of course, and a metal ring sizer. Once you decide what size ring you want to make, wrap the wire around the ring sizer, but make sure you leave a little extra room because depending on the thickness of the plating process, it may be a touch smaller than when you initially sized it. Once you've settled on your ring sizes, you can then cut the wire according to the ring style you want to make. Now sometimes I make wrap rings where the wire overlaps each other, but for my tri-stone rings I need a full circle, so this is what we're going with today. And if you had questions about why I use clothespins, this is your answer. It's so convenient for holding the rings when you're not using them and when they're drying. Once we've set aside our ring bands, I'm going to wrap the gemstone in the alcohol foil sheets to give it a little bit of an extra glow. You'll notice here I only wrap the underside of the gemstone. This side is going to be covered in conductive paint anyway. And you don't have to do this step, but in my opinion, this helps the gemstone keep a nice glow. Then we are going to start using the Gorilla Gel glue to glue the gemstones to the ring band. I really prefer to use the gel because it doesn't drip down the ring band and it just stays put. I like using the Insta-Set in this way because I found that spraying it right on the ring band can mess up the plating process. This keeps the product in one place right on top of the glue so that the glue sticks and holds within under 3 seconds. We're going to continue to do this process for each gemstone so that there's a tri-stone type style on the top of the ring band. Okay, all 3 stones are glued, and this is actually one of my most popular styles and I make this ring quite frequently. Next is a pro tip. Always close this tightly because if this spills, it's an absolute nightmare. Also, another pro tip, never just make one at a time. Make like 5 or 10 at a time because it just makes the crafting process so much easier. The next step in the process is to paint all around the stones and the ring band with conductive paint. This is the most tedious and longest part of the process, but it's the most important. This paint is what helps fuse the gemstones to the ring band, and if it's not done correctly, everything can be ruined. I pay such close attention to detail during this part of the process, and I normally do 2 or 3 coats. Depending on how many rings you're making at one time, this process can easily take up to an hour or 2. And then if you do that, it's even longer. Alright, this next stage of the process is going to get really unconventional. We are now going to set up the process to prepare the rings to go into the electroforming bath. I'm still using quite a small bath for the amount of rings that I make every month, so this might be on a bit of a smaller scale than what you're used to. I like to cut at least 5 or 6 long wires for the rings to hang on. This works for me, it may not work for everybody, but this is my process. If you're just starting out, this is an easy way to get started. I'm using pretty thick wire to do this. You can use thinner wire if you want. So I have to use tools to help me twist the wire around. It's crazy. I make sure to twist the wire because the more the wire is touching, the better the electroforming process will be. Like I said, this is super unconventional. Next, I'm going to bend each wire so that the rings have something to hang on in the bath. And depending on how big or deep your bath is, you may need to trim or you may not need to. It's totally up to you. Okay, I'm going to start hanging the rings on the wires, and I like to do this at my desk because it could get pretty tricky if I do this outside the bath. You don't want any of the rings to fall off into the bath. And I keep my bath downstairs in my garage, so let's head down there to put these in. Okay, you can see that my bath is quite small, but these rings fit perfectly. So I already have my electroforming process set up and my power supply. A lot of times in between batches, I make sure that the cords are reconnected, that the power supply is working properly, and that the voltage is correct. This is the most chaotic part, and it could take a lot of trial and error. I'll make a separate video on this sometime soon. I like to let my rings stay in there for about 24 to 48 hours, and here's the finished product. Well, step one, but these came out amazing. So pretty, nice, shiny, and salmony. Now, because my business is already up and running, I like to sell my rings in 14 karat gold or sterling silver. If you're just getting started, good luck, and stick around, I'll have more to share soon.